Tweed, relocation strategist and founder of Liberty Travel Coach, and welcome to Free Thinkers Rising. Today I have with me Joey Langenbrunner, founder of Nomad Layer, and I'm sure this is going to be very interesting for some of you because this is a new concept and a game changer, I think. So Joey, welcome. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to be here, Charlotte. Yeah, so a little bit about myself. I originally kind of come from like the crypto world, and then I got into like let's say like the sovereignty and residency and visas and all that kind of space. And so currently, I founded this company called Nomad Layer, which is essentially the first tax residency program, or like remote tax residency program in particular.
And what is Nomad Layer?
So essentially, we are a firm that's based out of like Próspera. So Próspera is a special economic zone, kind of like Dubai or like Abu Dhabi, but based in Honduras. And essentially, what I was able to do is that I was able to lobby for a particular program down there where we basically, came out with the first remote tax residency program. So it's essentially a $5,000 lump sum tax for like, let's say a perpetual traveler, digital nomad, remote worker, someone who's sick and tired of paying their high taxes in their home country and they just want to just travel freely, but they don't know how to deal with their tax situation or banking or, like company setup and stuff like that. And we kind of handle that all in one.
So you do the company setup and the tax residency.
Yep, absolutely.
And what are the fees involved for something like that?
Yeah, so um, a lot of this industry is based off of like, let's say like setup fees and lawyer fees and all these fees, right? And so the way that we wanted to structure things is say, hey, you pay a $5,000 lump sum tax, okay? So basically you can go back to like, let's say Canada or the UK or Germany and said, hey, I pay tax here. Now, what we give you instead of charging you any setup fees, because we don't have any fees, any middleman, any lawyer fees, nothing. What we give you for this lump sum tax is essentially we give you residency in the zone, first of all. We give you limited liability insurance in the zone. So if you're hanging out in the zone, which I'll tell you a little bit more about Prosper and stuff like that, like later on,
Mhm.
you're covered. And then we get you a Prosper company for free, in exchange for your tax dollars. This company is taxed at 1% territorial, which means as long as your income is not, or like your company or business, is not deriving of the zone, it's basically 0%. So it's like tax free. And then we get you the registered agent and business address all covered. And then we have an extra service where we can help you kind of get like a lease agreement with a proof of address and then help you get banking support and stuff like that. So everything that you need to essentially legally leave your home country and just travel remotely and say, hey, I have my company here, I pay taxes here, my address is there, all these kind of things. And so when people, so when banks or KYC, is being asked with, for you, which is called like know your customer. So like banks will ask it or like crypto exchanges will ask it. You have all that information ready to go and we kind of take care of that for you completely remote.
Now, you'd mentioned residency in the zone, and I know residency is a big question that a lot of people that I talk to have.
Sure.
How long do I
Yeah.
have to stay? Can I stay if I really like it somewhere? Are there any restrictions on the residency?
Yeah, so this is residency in the zone. This is not necessarily residency in Honduras. So that's like a little confusing. There's a little bit of a difference there because you don't necessarily need residency in Honduras to do this program. We can of course help you out with that. It's pretty affordable, but that's done through the federal government while our program is done through essentially like the special economic zone or this free zone. So this Prospera residency, which, of course, we'll get into Prospera soon here, will let you kind of enter into the zone because like it's a bit private, right? So let me just talk a little bit about Prospera so everyone kind of understands. So Dubai, UAE, okay? Prospera, Honduras, all right? So basically, Prospera, as a special economic zone, they can kind of do their own laws. They have some sort of like autonomy from, let's say, like the federal government of like Honduras. Like they don't have full autonomy. For example, like if you're in the zone, you still have to abide by the Honduran like criminal code, of course. So it's like you can't do anything crazy, but they can come up with their own tax laws, like, and there's a few other laws that they can kind of come up with. And so, you pay the $5,000 tax. They can have their own company and corporation laws and stuff like that. So like that's why we're able to kind of give you like basically like a tax-free company, and then speed up that and do everything online and stuff like that. So that's kind of what the beauty of kind of dealing with a special economic zone. Now, through this particular program, you have to come visit 7 days every single year. And so where it's located is actually on the island of Roatan, which is off the coast of Honduras. So like if you're coming from like North America, for example, like you can fly from Houston, Miami. You can also come from like Toronto, but if you're coming from like Europe or something like that, you can fly to like let's say like Mexico City, and then go like find your way to like Honduras, like that way, or just go from straight from like Madrid, Miami, to Roatan, right? And the cool thing about the zone is that you find like probably some of the coolest people you've ever met. Like we're pretty cool people, and you want to meet like cool people like us, you kind of come to the zone, right? So like for example, let's say I'm like Vitalik Buterin, the founder of Ethereum, was there just, last year. Or people like, let's say, I'm like Tim Draper, huge entrepreneur in the US, is an investor. And he's been down there and he's invested into some Prospera companies, for example. Or let's say Brian Armstrong, founder of Coinbase, was there as well and also invested like 120 million into the zone. So it attracts like high profile people. So like it's like a really cool place to like networking. And if you go to like Prospera's like website, there's like a lot of like there's always like fun activities going on and stuff like that. Like for example, like I might go to like the Free Cities conference that is happening, I believe like September 3rd to the 6th. So I should be there for that. That's a big conference. I think I've spoken at two different conferences. Just this year alone, and it's still like relatively, beginning-ish, almost middle of this year so far. So there's always like a lot of cool and fun activities going on. So like, and that's important because like if you're a perpetual traveler, you're a digital nomad, a remote worker, you don't want to like necessarily like settle down in one place in particular. It's important that you have a community. It's important that you have a home, and we want Prospera to essentially be that home for you.
I'm glad you mentioned the Free Cities Conference. I'm hoping to get there this year, finally. I've been wanting to go for the last few years. It's in Prague and it's just never worked.
Yeah.
So I'm aiming to go to that this year and finally
Great.
meet everybody. I've, conversed with so many people online, but I haven't met them in person yet. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, definitely doing that in person is pretty key, and like that's why I love going down there. Because every time I go down there, like I just meet some of them of the coolest people.
So getting back to the Nomad layer, how long does it take to set the program up?
Yeah, so basically the way that the procedure works is that you pay on the $5,000 tax. You can pay with crypto, card, ACH, so we try to make it as easy as possible because when you pay tax, it's like this complicated thing with all these forms and all this kind of stuff. So we try to make it as easy as possible. So basically you pay the tax, and then we direct you to Prospera's e-portal system. So basically this autonomous zone, this free zone has their own governance, portal system, okay? And you go there and you apply for the residency, okay? That might take a day or two for like approval. Um, and again, that's completely covered. And then after that, you set up your Prospera company and you get your address and all that kind of stuff. And then you file an application form for this. And this is, about like 2 pages online. Very easy. And then you just wait for approval. I would say right now it takes maybe about a month for approval, but we're hoping in a couple months, especially like next year, it's gonna be like less than a week. So you tell me another place where you can get a company, get an address, get your tax residency certificate, because that's what you get, which is signed and stamped by the Honduran government in like less than a week. It's like that's kind of what we're aiming for. I mean, even a month is the fastest right now.
Oh, I know it's incredible. And taxes can be incredibly complicated. I'm not a tax expert. I'll put that as a disclaimer right now, but it does sound so much easier. And I know with us, relocating to Mexico or wherever we may end up, everybody tells me something different. And it's so confusing and so convoluted. So I really appreciate that you've made this as simple as possible. And my understanding, filing the taxes is also very easy to do.
Yep. Yep. I mean, yeah, basically what like the procedure I told you is how easy it is. And then eventually you get your own tax return. And then of course, if you want to prove address, we just send you like a simple like lease agreement to sign, which will actually give you, some free stays in the zone as well. So when you come down and visit, like you'll have like some stays. And we only charge like $500 for that. And then, and then we have like, let's say, good banking, like relations with a few banks. So where you can get like personal bank account and then like let's say a bank account for like your Prospera company. But for your personal side, if you want to get like let's say like a bank confirmation letter with also your address, that's pretty important. So like let's say you're trying to open up a bank account in Dubai or Hong Kong or like in Mexico City, and you have let's say like the tax residency certificate with your address, you have a lease agreement with your address. We also issue you another document that's signed by me, the founder of Nomad Layer, saying, "Hey, Charlotte lives at this address," and then we have a bank confirmation letter with Charlotte at this address. That's a bank, and that should be good enough to open up like a bank account or like a crypto exchange, any of these type of things.
Mhm. So it is legal.
Yes.
It is internationally recognized.
Yeah.
Do you get a lot of people going, this just sounds too good to be true? It sounds too easy. Do you hear that?
Yeah. I would say like that's kind of like the biggest issue on our sales calls, which is kind of like a double-edged sword, right? Because you don't want to sound like too good to be true. But we try, we really try to make it as easy as possible, you know. And the reason why, like, let's say it's like a $5,000 like price tag is because we, you want to pay enough taxes where you can show to your home country, say, hey, I paid a legitimate amount of tax. It's not a crazy amount, but it's not like a little tax. It's not like, hey, I paid $50 in tax, like leave me be, right? Because a lot of like these countries in the West, if it's like the UK, Canada, Australia, like they're very, very strict these days. And they're becoming more and more broke, and they're using like AI and more technology to like track you and stuff like this. And this is just like a very easy way to say, hey, I actually paid tax here. Here's everything that's like legitimate. I have my address here. I have a business here. I have a bank account here. I'm on the ground here, for like my 7 days. I cut all ties with my home country, which is probably, I mean, like that's like half of the battle, like that's really what like half you need to do. You're not going to be a good client of ours if you're still, like if you still have a property in Canada, you still have your family in Canada, you still have a job there, like you're still going to pay tax in Canada, right? So you want to deal with like a licensed tax attorney in Canada or the UK or Germany or Australia or wherever you're from to make sure like you're cutting those ties, and then we kind of finish that process for you.
So who would be the perfect candidate for this program?
Yeah, so there's a few. I would say, let's say, tech or crypto or coach, type entrepreneurs that can work remote. Anyone that works remote and is sick and tired of paying high tax, So like, let's say these people might be in like their late 20s, 30s, 40s, into 50s. And then we got a few people in their 60s and 70s that are like, I'm sick of paying the high tax here. I already made it. I just want to travel, but like I gotta pay tax here. It's like for like Canadians or Australians or Swedes or Spanish. Like these countries are making sure that you're paying tax somewhere, right? For example, I have a client from the UK, and he's been living in the Philippines for a few years, and he hasn't been able to get a bank account, right? Because every single time these banks are asking, like, "Hey, where do you live?" And he's like, well, I'm in the Philippines, like this and that. And they're asking like, like, where are you paying tax? Like, oh, well, and they're like, okay, well, if you're not paying tax anywhere, banks are automatically going to assume that you're money laundering, right? Like they're automatically going to assume you're guilty. And so I had this client like literally like begging me, like, I just need to pay tax somewhere so I can prove to the bank that I'm paying tax somewhere, so they would let me open up a bank account, you know? So that's where it comes into like a real situation where like banks are just denying you access unless you're paying tax somewhere. Because like these banks, again, are going to automatically assume that you're doing any, like something illegal when like you're not. Like you left your home country legally. Like sometimes like the country might not care too much. Like, like the UK, if you properly leave, like they're not necessarily going to follow you too much, but banks are going to be the ones that are going to be like, hey, whoa, 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 like where are you paying tax? Do you have a legitimate address somewhere? And it's like if you're just in and out of Airbnbs, or you're just hanging out like in the Philippines, you don't like have any legal structure in play, you're gonna have issues when it comes to banking, and that's essentially just like a trickle effect, like you won't be able to open up like a PayPal account, no bank account. If you're trying to open up like an offshore business, you're gonna have issues there. And so that's why it's important to like have some sort of like legal structure, and then we just take care of that for you in less than a month, totally remote, boom, done. In the
Good.
most efficient way possible.
So this can relieve a person's tax burden as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because like you'd said, it's a flat tax. So if you make $1 million or if you make $50,000, you're going to pay $5,000 tax.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So like even if you're making like 50K and you're paying 50% taxes, it's still gonna save you. So you know, and also like let's say you are like living in Germany and like you're making that 50K and you're paying like very high taxes, but you're using like the welfare there and you're using like the government services, and you're like dependent on that,
Mhm.
but then like in that particular situation, like we might not be the best fit for you because like like you are relying on the government, right? And this is kind of like a different lifestyle. If you want to be free, you want to be a little bit more mobile and stuff like that, then we're like the right program for you. But like if you're like, you know what, I'm chilling here in Germany, the taxes are high, it's a little cold here, but I really appreciate the government services and like the pain isn't too much yet. It's like, okay, then yeah, you're not gonna be like our best candidate. But if you want that freedom, if you want that sovereignty, you make enough, then this is gonna be like a good program because really at the end of the day, like if you have like let's say an office job and you're dependent on the office job, you like our program's really not going to be the best because you still have to walk into that office every single day, right? So like we're not like the perfect solution for some people, but if you are a remote entrepreneur and you're sick and tired of paying high taxes and you just want probably like the fastest and cheapest like setup where you get that company and bank support all included and then proof that you pay tax somewhere. I mean, you tell me like a better option on the market. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I like it how you said it's not too painful yet. Yet. The tax burden in Canada is pretty painful, right? Half the year, I think used to be June 7th or 8th was tax freedom day. I don't know if that's changed, but like that's half your year of your salary going to taxes. It's insanity. So, I mean, affordability is one of the reasons we left Canada. And so if I think of my scenario, so what the kind of life that I would like is we like to have a base for about 6 months or so, go somewhere else for 4 months, and then travel for 2 months. That's kind of the idea we have. So I'm thinking your program may be a good fit for myself. We haven't entered the Mexico tax system yet. And with the permanent residency with us, there are no minimum requirements to stay. So we can come and go as we please.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Mexican tax system is also pretty complicated, and
Mhm. I
you're
don't
also
really
dealing
want to
with
get into it. I don't know if I want to enter it.
I don't think you should. I think you should do our
No.
program instead.
I don't think I should enter it. But yeah, so it's certainly an interesting option and I think it could possibly work in my situation of
Yeah, I
what we
mean, like to be honest, like you would be like the perfect client because you're not, planning on spending all year round in Mexico. You said like, hey, I want to be there for 6 months. So it's like if you say, hey, I'm going to be in Mexico for 5 months and 3 weeks,
Yeah.
and then use like that extra week to just come hang out in on like Honduras, you
Mhm.
know, like let's say like come for like the Free Cities conference, hang out with me for about 7 days, handle that requirement. We'll get you the tax certificate, we'll get you the company, all that beforehand, and then like you go do your 4 months over here at the other base and traveling inferior, like so like essentially like you would be like our perfect client for us for sure.
Mhm. Well, as we start wrapping up our chat, what is one actionable step that you think somebody could do today to begin reclaiming their freedom?
I would say probably the first thing and is to make sure that you're making enough money, right? It's like a lot of people will essentially say like, oh, I want to leave Canada or Germany or the UK or like a high tax place or it's too cold. Like I'd love to go. Make sure you're making enough money before you leave.
Mhm.
Because like I hear like all these stories about like where you'll have like Germans or Canadians, they'll like fly off to Thailand and they're like, okay, it's cheap living, and then they literally run out of money. And there's more and more like situations like this. So like before you even consider like a program like we have or anything like that, like make sure that you have reliable remote income. If that's like a good job or whatever, like let's say like you find like a good job like in Canada or the US or Germany, because like you can still find like high paying jobs in those places, but make sure you're making enough where you can like kind of like live this lifestyle. Because if you're not making enough money, like go ahead and enjoy like the Canadian like welfare state. And like that's just kind of like the realistic thing because like I have clients or like leads and they'll say, yeah, I really want to do this, like this is perfect. And I'm like, okay, like like, yeah, cool, let's do it. And they're like, oh, well, I don't have enough money yet to like pay the tax. I'm like, okay, so like you're definitely not making enough money. So like before you think about going out there and like leaving your home country and like being free and sovereign, you really need to make enough money. Like it really comes down to that. And then once you do, then that's when like your options actually start opening up. Like, okay, like, hey, I want to do this Nomad Layer program. I want to get a Mexican residency. I want to go buy a property in Colombia. I want to go buy like property like in Bali or like whatever. Then you can start thinking about those things. But you have to make sure that you're financially independent before you can start thinking about being like free in that nature. Just be like realistic.
Yes, start planning now. And so I
Yep.
think educating yourself now. And I would also add on to what you said about the income, have more than one income stream. I think it's very beneficial to have more than one income stream because if you have one and you lose that, that can put you in a very difficult situation as well. And I'm speaking from experience on that. It makes it a lot more challenging when you have to have just the one income. I would say have more. More than one will make it a lot easier. So,
Absolutely.
yes. Joey, is there anything that I should have asked you that I did not ask you about Nomad Layer?
I think that is, yeah, I mean I think you did a great job in asking questions. So nothing I
Okay.
think, but of course like if anyone has any more questions, I mean they could email us at hello@nomadlayer .com, or if you just like search my name on Instagram or X or LinkedIn, like totally open to any DMs or anything like that too.
Certainly. And I will put a link to the program in the description as well.
Absolutely.
Great. Yes, because I'm an affiliate of the program. I believe in it and I
Yep.
think it's fantastic. So,
Awesome. Thank you so much, Charlotte.
all right. All right. Thank you for your time today, Joey. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.